Emily, how much longer are you going to stall? He asked coldly. Dragging it out all these years. What does it matter? It was always just one-sided. I never had you in my heart. Even getting the marriage certificate was just about getting the apartment. I will never love you. Don't you understand that by now? My body trembled, but not because of his indifference. No, it was from the overwhelming disbelief and joy. I had really come back. Back to that day 10 years ago, the day we went to the civil registry to get married. Staring at his younger but still distant and cold profile, tears streamed down my face, and I didn't even bother to wipe them away. If you had a choice, you wouldn't marry me, would you? I asked. Even though I gave up college entrance exams for you? Even though I took care of your sick mother for all those years? Your heart has always belonged to Rachel. A flicker of discomfort crossed Jason's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by irritation. Of course, compared to Rachel, anyone else is just settling. You know that better than anyone, so why ask? What, are you going to back out now? I wiped my tears quickly and swallowed all the bitterness. Everyone at the plant knew how deeply I loved Jason, loved him to the bone. To help him get his promotion, I took over every bit of housework, cared for his whole family, even ran myself into the ground. I transformed from a cheerful young woman into the worn-out wife everyone pitied and laughed at behind my back. When Jason first arrived at the factory, he used to awkwardly buy me little bags of cheap, sugar-roasted chestnuts now and then. Again and again, I mistook those tiny gestures for concern. I thought maybe my years of sacrifice had finally touched his heart. After Jason was promoted to engineer, he was the one who suggested we go register our marriage. But it wasn't until Rachel returned from the provincial capital and collapsed into his arms that I realized the photo he kept tucked away in his wallet had never been of me. 10 years of marriage. I gave him everything. But in his eyes, I was just a clingy woman, using love as an excuse to trap him. In the final moments of my life, I traded all the kindness I had accumulated over the years for this one chance to come back. A voice echoed in the depths of my soul, warning me, reversing time, returning from death, these things come with a price. Fate has already been written. Each time you change what's destined, your body will deteriorate a little more. To truly change the outcome, you must cut the 3 major ties in Jason's life. Even so, I accepted it. As long as Jason could get everything he wanted, I would gladly give up my life 1,000 times over. I took the already filled marriage application form from the drawer and tore it to shreds. There were 3 major turning points in Jason's fate: marrying me, securing the apartment that locked our futures together, and Rachel's near-fatal kidney disease. At least now, I had severed the first tie. When I returned to the staff housing building, Jason was leaning against the stairwell railing, smoking as he waited for me. He reached out to grab my hand, but I gently avoided him. Let's keep some distance before we register, I said. No need to give people more gossip material. He let out a mocking laugh, blowing smoke that made me cough. If it weren't for your mom and the factory pushing for it, I wouldn't bother wasting my time. You used to cling to me like glue, and now you're suddenly playing coy? What's this, some new trick? I forced a smile. I just don't want any more misunderstandings. He scoffed loudly and didn't try to touch me again, but as I climbed the stairs, he still instinctively reached out behind me, just like he used to support me. If I hadn't already known his heart was with Rachel, I might have felt a twinge of warmth at that unconscious gesture. That evening, a neighbor's radio played Teresa Teng's Sweet Honey. Your smile is sweet, so sweet, like flowers blooming in the spring breeze. I paused at the familiar melody. A memory surfaced. One winter years ago, I had slipped in the snow trying to buy him an urgently needed technical manual. I fell, caught a fever. He had carried me through the snow, step by step, to the clinic, humming an off-tune song the whole way. In my feverish haze, I remembered the faint scent of soap on the handkerchief he used to wipe my forehead. I had washed and re-washed that handkerchief, keeping it for years as if it meant everything. Later, when I had recovered, I asked him to hum that tune for me again. But he was busy fixing the radio in Rachel's new dorm room. He just gave me an impatient glance and said, "You're a grown woman, still acting spoiled? There's nothing wrong with you. What do you need to hear a song for?" He told me I took things too seriously. As the music faded into the distance, the last bit of love I had for him quietly cooled. I turned my head and saw Jason pull a brand new handkerchief from his pocket. Wipe your face. Don't be late for work tomorrow, he said. I took the handkerchief, which smelled faintly of mothballs, and felt my eyes sting. He was always like this, knocking me down with his words, only to give me a tiny sliver of warmth when I least expected it. He didn't love me, yet he silently accepted my 10 years of devotion. We had been husband and wife in name only for a decade. From the early years when we supported each other through hardship, to the gradual coldness as his career advanced, and eventually to the open hostility once Rachel returned. Everything a married couple could go through, we had lived through it all. He once saved my life from the freezing river, and had stood by me when rumors swirled. But when I needed him the most, he pushed me into despair for Rachel's sake. Jason was a good man, just not good to me. The brief warmth from that handkerchief vanished the moment our fingers touched. I knew that no matter how much I prayed, the heavens would not change anything for me. Still, I folded the handkerchief carefully and put it in my pocket, softly humming that old tune. "Just this once," I whispered. No sooner had I spoken than a rush of footsteps echoed from downstairs. It was Lily, Rachel's coworker from the workshop. She was out of breath and said Rachel had fainted. Jason needed to hurry over. Jason's expression changed instantly, and without hesitation, he turned to leave. "Rachel's always been frail. I have to check on her. You head back on your own. We'll talk about the marriage certificate later." "Okay," I nodded, but then he suddenly grabbed my arm. "Yesterday you raised hell over Rachel giving me a new shirt, and now you're just letting it go? What's with you today?" Before I could reply, he gave a knowing look. "Oh, I get it. It's about the new company housing for married staff, right? Gotta keep up the act in front of your mom." Then he rushed down the stairs with Lily, completely missing the silent tears slipping down my cheek. What kind of woman could stand by and watch her own husband long for someone else? Rachel always claimed Jason was like a brother to her, yet she repeatedly spread rumors in the factory, saying Jason only stayed with me out of pity. Her gossip made it nearly impossible for me to lift my head around the others. But Jason didn't know. He had no idea that the pure, kind-hearted Rachel he imagined was cutting into me with a soft, invisible knife every chance she got. This time, I decided to let them have each other. The next day was supposed to be the day we registered our marriage. The factory director and our supervisor, Mr. Warren, called us into the office together. "You two have always been my biggest worry and my greatest hope," the director said with a smile. "Now that you're finally making it official, I can rest easy." Mr. Warren laughed and called me Jason's wife already. "Once Emily and Jason move into their new place, you'll have to whisper in his ear for us. Get him to take better care of the older guys in the workshop. He used to be so cold and serious, always keeping to himself. Now that he has a wife, he should start warming up a bit." They truly wished the best for me and Jason, and the more genuine their words were, the more ashamed I felt. I was just an ordinary textile worker. I didn't have much education, but I was dependable and hardworking, which earned me a lot of care and support from the factory leaders. Years ago, I gave up college for Jason, and later I missed the chance to become a full-time employee because I was busy taking care of his family. It was thanks to the director and Mr. Warren pulling strings that I was allowed to keep my temporary job. But this time, I was the one letting them down. "Director, Mr. Warren," I said quietly, "I'm not going to register the marriage with Jason. Tomorrow I'll resign from the factory. Maybe I'll go back to the countryside. Maybe I'll go south and try my luck there. I probably won't come back." Why did the smile on the director's face freeze? "You and Jason have finally made it through the worst," he said. "After so many years of hard work, you've endured so much together. He's about to be named an outstanding employee. Why give up now of all times? Today he can finally marry you openly and honorably. Isn't this the day you've been waiting for?" No matter how immature Rachel might be, he continued, she wouldn't dare cause a scene at the factory. "Did Jason say something awful to you again? Or did he hurt you because of her? You can tell us. We'll stand up for you." "Yes, Emily, don't let that girl Rachel trick you," Mr. Warren added, clearly anxious. "She hasn't even known Jason that long. You and Jason, you've built something real together. You've been through everything with him." He looked at me with concern. "You've suffered so many grievances in the workshop because of Jason. And he stood up to his superiors more than once for your sake. How can you just throw away a relationship like that?" Just the other day, he went on, Jason told us he was planning to take you to the department store for your birthday. To buy you new clothes. If you didn't love him, why would you have knitted him so many sweaters with your own hands? If you didn't love him, why are your eyes swollen from crying? In my past life, they had tried to talk me out of it the same way. Everyone believed Jason and I were a perfect match, stronger than gold. But in the end, we all lost him. And the heartbreak was unbearable. I raised my head with quiet resolve. Rather than becoming a couple who would only grow to resent each other, I'd rather let him go. If we got married and his heart still belonged to Rachel, if he would risk even his future and his life for her, what then was I supposed to do? I remembered how, in that other life, he had jumped into the frozen river to save me. His lips turned purple, and he nearly lost his life. I begged him to leave me and save himself, but he refused. He held me tightly, keeping me from freezing until he passed out. My nose stung, and I nearly burst into tears again. As long as he could live well, that was worth more than anything. The factory director and Mr. Warren were clearly disappointed, but they saw that my mind was made up and didn't press further. After they left, I took off the new outfit I had bought just for the registration day and began packing my already modest belongings. I didn't marry Jason. The second thread of fate tying him to me, I cut it with my own hands. Deep down, I felt that familiar wave of weakness wash over me, followed by a dull ache in my chest. This must be the cost that voice had warned me about. But as long as I stopped holding on, everyone else could live more freely and happily. Whatever price I had to pay would be worth it. Not long after, Jason suddenly kicked open my dorm room door, stormed in, and yanked me up from the bed. He dragged me toward Rachel's dorm. Emily, I told you before, the one thing I hate most is two-faced people. I thought you finally understood yesterday. I never expected you to be so vicious. He shouted as we moved. You said all those things to Rachel on purpose, just to upset her. Just because you were afraid she'd mess up your years-long shot at getting that marriage approval. A wave of pain shot through my arm as he tightened his grip. My face flushed red from the pressure. In my previous life, not long after Jason and I got married, Rachel suffered sudden acute kidney failure from emotional distress. Though she worked as a clinic nurse, her own body had always been fragile. People said she had been sickly since childhood and couldn't handle strong medication. By the time Jason learned that my grandmother had once left behind an herbal remedy that might save Rachel, she was already on the verge of death. I hadn't expected the moment to sever the third thread of fate to come so soon. Tomorrow would be the third day since I returned. The final deadline the voice had given me. If I changed Rachel's fate, then maybe Jason could truly live. Jason finally let go of my arm. My voice was hoarse as I asked, "So you're here to make me use that remedy to save her?" He avoided my eyes. His voice was slightly strained. "What are you talking about? That remedy's risky. If we keep pushing her, she might only have a few more years anyway." I lowered my gaze, wanting to say more, but suddenly I heard crying and shouting coming from Rachel's dorm room. "Jason, Rachel's coughing up blood again. If we don't find the right medication soon, she might not make it." Jason clenched his fists tightly, his eyes locked on me. "Jason," Rachel whispered from the bed, her voice so faint it was barely audible. "You don't need to feel torn because of me. Emily's your fiancée. I'm just an outsider. If I die, it doesn't matter." When I opened my eyes again, it was already the next afternoon. Sunlight slanted through the window, and the air was thick with the scent of medicine. There were less than 12 hours left until the final deadline that voice had spoken of. My body ached, weak and numb, and I could faintly hear Jason and Rachel talking in hushed tones in the next room. "Jason, I used Emily's remedy. What if it hurts you instead?" "Don't overthink it," he said. "Emily's been jealous of you for a long time. I didn't register the marriage with her yesterday on purpose, to make her realize she's not untouchable. Even with the director and Mr. Warren backing her, she can't outmatch you. Letting her suffer a little will teach her a lesson. Besides, I'll have Mom make some chicken soup to help you recover. You're too sensitive. Right now, you just need to focus on getting better. Forget all that nonsense." Rachel paused, her voice carrying a subtle hint of hesitation. "Jason, do you feel deal being with me, after everything Emily's done for you? She even gave up college for you." Jason was silent for a long moment before finally replying. "Whether it was giving up school or taking care of my mom, she did all that by choice. No one owes anyone anything. I've already done more than enough for her these past years. If I'd met you earlier at the factory, I never would have wasted so much time with her. Just rest now, Rachel. My heart felt like it was being crushed by a heavy stone. I hadn't even noticed when Jason entered my room. In this life, he could finally be with the one he truly loved, free of guilt, no longer dragged down by me, no longer burdened or ashamed because of my presence. He would never again have to risk his life in a frozen river to save me. He stood there silently for a while, his expression tight and unreadable. "Did you overhear something?" Rachel's cough echoed from the next room. He glanced at me, his eyes conflicted, then turned away abruptly. "I'll explain everything tomorrow." I smiled. What tomorrow? There would be no more tomorrows. Once I could no longer see his figure, I gathered the last of my strength to climb out of bed and leave the place where I had loved and suffered for 10 years. On the nightstand, I left a simple note: "Let's both live our lives well. We owe each other nothing anymore." Next to it were all the ration coupons and cloth tickets I had saved over the years, along with a few small bills. By the time Jason had settled things with Rachel, it was already late the next evening. He pushed open the door to my dorm, only to find an empty bed and a handful of insignificant things left behind on the nightstand. Where did Emily go? Her body's so weak. How could she just run off? Before the dorm supervisor could respond, Officer Liu from factory security came running in, breathless and pale. "Bad news, there was a fire this afternoon at the long-distance bus station headed for the provincial capital. Most passengers got out in time, but one severely ill woman went missing in the chaos. They only found a half-burnt bundle of belongings. The name on the missing passenger's registration was Emily." Jason's face went completely pale. He grabbed Liu by the collar. "Say that again. Where is Emily?" Jason's voice was hoarse, barely recognizable. His eyes were bloodshot, and without a moment's pause, he rushed out the door. The biting wind stung my cheeks. I realized I was on a moving, long-distance bus. An older man sitting beside me said gently, "Don't worry, sweetheart. The factory director told me to make sure you get safely to the south." The scenery outside the window blurred by as quickly as my consciousness. Meanwhile, Jason stood amidst the charred remains of the bus station, frantically digging through debris like a madman. His hands were covered in cuts, blood streaking from where the broken glass had torn through his skin. Rachel arrived and tried to pull him back. "Jason, it's too dark. Stop looking. Come back tomorrow." He threw her hand off fiercely. "Get out of my way. If something's happened to Emily, I'll never forgive myself." A station worker handed him a scorched bundle. This belonged to the sick female passenger. "Is this what you were looking for?" Inside the bundle was a faded photo, the only picture ever taken of us together, standing side by side at the factory. His tears, which he'd fought back for so long, finally burst forth. He fell to his knees in the ashes and cried out, devastated. The old doctor arranged by the director settled me in a small room facing south. "Miss, your body is extremely weak. The director said we must take good care of you. No one can know you're here." I nodded weakly, not even able to keep my eyes open. Back at the dorm, Jason returned in a daze. His gaze was empty. Then he noticed something sticking out from under my bed. He reached down and pulled out a hidden notebook, a diary. Today, Jason got praised at work. I made his favorite sweet and sour ribs. He ate them happily, though he thought the cafeteria chef had made them. His coat was getting worn out, so I saved every fabric ration ticket I had to sew him a new one. He thought it was a welfare gift from the factory, and smiled so brightly. Today, Rachel gave Jason supplements in front of me on purpose. He didn't even glance at me. But it's okay. As long as he's happy, that's enough. Page after page, it was filled with my silent sacrifices and all the sorrow I had swallowed down alone. Jason's tears fell, soaking the yellowing paper. Only then did he finally see the truth of my heart. When Rachel heard about my supposed death, a flicker of barely concealed delight flashed across her face. The very next day, she showed up at Jason's door wearing new clothes and carrying carefully prepared tonic. "Jason, don't be too sad. Emily wouldn't want to see you like this." The factory held a simple memorial for me. The director looked at Jason with a complex expression. Some people suffer more alive than dead, and some who leave, maybe it's their way of being free. Far away in the south, I finally woke up. On the nightstand was a letter and some cash. "Child, live well. Don't look back. This money is enough for you to start over. Remember, Your life belongs to you. Clutching the letter, my vision blurred with tears. As night fell, Jason sat alone on the edge of my old bed, drunk out of his mind, hugging that diary like a lifeline. Rachel came to comfort him, but he suddenly grabbed her wrist. Emily, I never once looked at you properly. I was the one who let you down. Rachel froze. A flash of irritation crossed her face, but quickly gave way to a pitiful, composed expression. Jason, I'm Rachel? Not Emily. Mr. Warren, who had remained silent all this time, finally couldn't hold back. In front of everyone, he pointed straight at Jason's face. Even if Emily's gone, I have to demand justice for her. She gave you the best years of her youth, and this is how it ends? What a damn tragedy. Jason sank into guilt and couldn't claw his way out. For half a year, he lived like a ghost, drifting through each day. His work suffered. He was unfocused and careless. During a critical technical trial, his repeated mistakes caused the entire project to fail. The award for exemplary worker that had once been a sure thing was withdrawn. But he didn't care. Rachel seized the chance to act like a devoted wife, cooking, cleaning, fussing over him, doing everything to win his heart. Jason, please stop this, she said sweetly. Emily's gone. You need to move forward. He spoke to her in a soft, comforting voice, but his hand casually rested on her shoulder. I want to visit Emily's hometown, Jason suddenly said, to pay my respects on her behalf. Rachel's expression changed instantly. But work at the factory is so busy right now, she said quickly. And your health isn't great either. Why rush into it? There was a flash of unease and panic in her eyes. Meanwhile, I was slowly regaining strength in the southern sanatorium. Each day, I sat on the balcony, staring blankly at the distant sea. In the next room lived a female painter, a woman who had endured her own hardships. A casual conversation turned us into friends. I see you always watching those fishermen drying their nets, she said one day. Thinking of making something? She handed me a set of embroidery needles. Try it, I'll teach you. I picked up the needle and thread, burying myself in learning embroidery. With each stitch, I wove parts of my story into the fabric. Every thread pierced through me like a needle to the heart, releasing years of unspoken sorrow. Back at the factory, while sorting through my belongings, Jason discovered a small iron box hidden behind a wall brick. Inside were all the ration coupons, work tickets, and receipts I had saved over the years. At the very bottom were payment slips, orders I had placed for technical materials and parts from a research institute in Beijing. The dates matched perfectly with each of his major technical breakthroughs. And yet, in my wardrobe, all that hung were clothes that had been patched over and over again. In that moment, he finally understood where his so-called luck had come from. Tears welled up again and streamed down his face. A new accountant had recently joined the factory. She frequently brought Jason small gifts and showed great concern for him, but he always responded coldly. One day, passing by the office, he overheard a low conversation between the accountant and Rachel. Don't worry, I'll follow the plan exactly, the accountant said. He has no clue, Rachel replied smugly. If everything goes smoothly, I'll split the benefits with you. Jason stood outside the door, his heart turning cold as ice. Meanwhile, my embroidery work, rich with unique style and deep emotion, was exhibited locally and caused quite a stir. A businessman from Hong Kong, deeply moved by my talent, paid me a personal visit. Miss Sue, he said, your work has such soul. I'd like to invite you to open a studio in the South. What do you think? I looked at the embroidery, each piece a testament to heartbreak and rebirth. After a moment, I nodded, unable to endure the strange looks and whispers from those around him. Jason requested a transfer to a remote branch factory. He didn't know that I had once repeatedly mentioned that same factory, a place with poor technical infrastructure, desperately in need of skilled workers. The night before he left, he went to my favorite riverbank and released a sky lantern. Emily, he murmured, this time, let me watch the lights with you. If there's a next life, I promise I'll treat you better. When Rachel heard about Jason's upcoming transfer, she panicked. She staged a dramatic scene, collapsing at the factory gate to draw attention. Quick, get Engineer Jason. Rachel's having another episode. But Dr. Chang from the infirmary happened to be passing by. One look, and he saw right through her act. Dr. White, prolonged use of this medication causes simulated symptoms. Aren't you worried about permanent damage to your body? He reached into Rachel's coat pocket and pulled out a small bottle. This drug causes pale skin and short-term fainting. You've all been deceived. The crowd erupted into shocked murmurs. You've been lying to us? Was your illness fake too? Someone shouted. Rachel's face went pale as death as she watched her carefully constructed lies crumble in front of everyone. Back at the branch factory, Jason had just finished settling into his dorm when he was informed that a batch of mail addressed to him had been mistakenly stored in the archives room. They were letters that should have reached him long ago, but for some reason had been withheld. The handwriting on the envelopes was unmistakably mine. His hands trembled as he opened the first one. Jason, I know Rachel has always had it out for me. I know she said terrible things behind my back. But I don't blame her. And I don't want you to either. As long as you're happy, I can endure anything. I can feel that she's not as innocent as she seems, but I never wanted to ruin the relationship between you two. Your smile has always been my greatest joy. Reading that, Jason felt like he had been struck by lightning. All the truths Jason had never seen, I had long since known, but I chose to endure them in silence. My embroidery pieces were now displayed in a small boutique in a southern city. Over time, word of mouth spread, and I began to build a modest reputation. I even started saving a little money. On every payday, I set aside a portion of my earnings to sponsor a few girls who, like me back then, longed to study but lacked the opportunity. Thank you, big sister, one of them said, her eyes shining. I'll study really hard. One day, I'll help others too. Looking at her innocent smile, I finally smiled too. It was the first genuine smile I had allowed myself since I was reborn. After Rachel was exposed, her behavior grew darker. She spread rumors throughout the factory, saying that I had clung to Jason in life, that he had only pretended to care for me out of obligation. If she hadn't died, she told people, Jason never would have been free. I heard it from Jason himself, she whispered. Emily threatened to kill herself when she got sick, so he had no choice but to stay by her side. The gossip became more absurd with each retelling, until Mr. Warren's daughter returned from a business trip and slapped Rachel across the face. You're lying through your teeth. My father told me everything. Emily used a dangerous remedy to save your life, and now you repay her with this? During her business trip to the South, Ms. Warren had wandered into a small embroidery shop and was stunned to find a familiar design on display. It was the gray motif, a signature pattern unique to the factory, known only to those who had worked there. She looked closer at the signature in the corner, Wansho. No way. Emily's still alive? She whispered in disbelief. Meanwhile, Jason had become a standout at the branch factory and was nominated to compete in a national-level technical contest. Just before the finals, he overheard two coworkers chatting. I heard Rachel tampered with his blueprints while he was away, said she wanted to teach him a lesson. What? Jason rushed back to the original factory overnight. Sure enough, several key parameters on the blueprints had been altered. The factory director received a letter from Miss Warren. Emily's alive. She's doing well in the South. He read the letter and let out a long sigh. That girl, she suffered so much. I'm glad she finally made it through. After thinking it over, he decided not to tell Jason. She's finally living a new life. Let it be. At the sanatorium, I underwent a full health examination. The doctor's expression turned grave. Miss Sue, the herbal remedy you used earlier took a heavy toll on your body. While your vitals are improving, I'm afraid it may be very difficult for you to ever have children. I listened quietly, not surprised and not regretful either. It's all right, doctor. Just surviving this long is already a gift. At the contest venue, Jason publicly exposed the blueprint sabotage. The crowd was in uproar. Who would do something so vile? Was it just to sabotage his chances of winning? Once the truth was confirmed, Rachel was disqualified from being recommended for a national enterprise position. She screamed as security dragged her from the hall. Jason, however, missed the final round due to the incident. He could only stand outside the arena, watching someone else lift the trophy that might have been his. 3 years later, in the spring, my embroidery studio had gained local recognition in a small southern town. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the table where a little girl sat, her profile full of focus. Auntie, I want to learn this flower pattern. Can I? She was an orphan I adopted during a charity event. Her eyes sparkled like stars. Of course you can. Xiaohe, your hands are so nimble, you'll learn quickly. My life had gradually found its rhythm. Though my body still struggled from time to time, my heart was far more peaceful than it had ever been. Back at the branch factory, Jason kept his head down and worked hard. His talent and persistence earned him a place as one of the factory's top engineers. In his dorm room, there was little beyond the essentials, except for a photo of me and the yellowed diary I had left behind. Every year on my birthday, he would buy a bottle of liquor, go to the riverbank, and drink until he passed out. Emily, how are you doing now? Is there anyone up there bullying you? He always talked to the wind, as if I could hear him. Rachel, meanwhile, was dismissed from the clinic after being found solely responsible for a medical malpractice incident. She was reduced to doing menial work at a small clinic. Her appearance had aged drastically. The corners of her eyes were etched with resentment and bitterness. One day, by chance, she ran into Ms. Warren, the daughter of Mr. Warren, who had come to pick up medicine at the same clinic. "Aren't you Mr. Warren's daughter?" Rachel asked. Miss Warren gave her a cold look and turned away without a word. "Wait," Rachel blocked her. "When you went south last time, did you see Emily? She's alive, isn't she?" Miss Warren's expression froze. Her reaction was answer enough. Meanwhile, I had received an important embroidery order that required me to deliver it personally to a northern city. Little he came with me, insisting on seeing the northern snow. "Auntie, is it cold where we're going? Will it snow a lot?" "It will," I smiled, brushing her hair back. "Northern winters are beautiful. Everything is covered in white." But despite my calm voice, I couldn't shake the unease stirring inside me. That city was where Jason's branch factory was located. When Rachel confirmed that I was still alive, the hatred inside her rekindled like a venomous serpent. She managed to get in touch with Jason. "Jason, I know where Emily is. She's alive. She's living a good life down south. Hasn't even thought about you." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Jason's voice on the other end trembled. "Emily? I'm not lying," Rachel cut in. "Mr. Warren's daughter saw her with her own eyes. And guess what? She's coming north. Right to your city." Jason hung up the phone and immediately requested sick leave. Following Rachel's lead, he began searching for any sign of me. Little he and I had just arrived in the north when a sudden snowstorm hit. The roads became too slick to continue, and our car was forced to stop at a small roadside inn for safety. "Don't be scared, Xiao He," I reassured the frightened little girl. "We'll stay here tonight. Once the snow stops, we'll head out." But I had no idea that this remote rest stop sat directly along Jason's travel route. The factory director, upon learning that Rachel had contacted Jason, began to suspect something dangerous was brewing. He drove through the night to the branch factory, hoping to prevent a tragedy. But in the blizzard, his car skidded off the road and slammed into a tree. Struggling to remain conscious, he dialed Jason's number. Just as the call connected, he blacked out, leaving behind only a half-finished warning. "Watch out for Rachel." Following the address Rachel had given him, Jason arrived at an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. The wind howled with icy force, and there wasn't a soul in sight. Snowflakes drifted down, ghost-like, in the dim evening light. "Emily? Are you here?" he called, stepping inside the pitch-black building. Then, clack. The heavy door slammed shut behind him and locked from the outside. Back at the inn, I overheard staff whispering. "Someone got trapped at that old factory. With this storm, will he survive until help arrives?" A sudden, chilling intuition surged through me. I dropped my embroidery, asked the innkeeper to watch little he, and stepped alone into the storm. The footprints I left behind were quickly buried by fresh snow, but I followed my instincts step by step toward the abandoned building. From a distance, I saw Rachel standing alone, gripping a lighter, her eyes wild with rage. "It's all because of you," she screamed. "Jason's become colder and colder toward me. I lost everything because of you. My future, my life. It's all your fault." She lit a pile of gasoline-soaked debris. Flames burst upward in an instant and began racing toward the building. Inside the dim factory, Jason spotted a familiar figure through the smoke. "Emily, is that really you?" I didn't answer. I'd already noticed the thick, acrid smell of smoke filling the air. "It's on fire. Get out," I shouted, rushing toward him. But he had already lost consciousness from the smoke. The fire grew more intense, waves of heat rolling in from all sides. I used every last ounce of strength to drag Jason toward the exit. Years of illness had left me weak. My chest burned as if knives were carving into it. Just a bit farther. Almost there. Thick smoke filled my lungs. I started coughing violently, my vision darkening, spots flickering before my eyes. In the final moment before the fire crew arrived, I shoved open the back door of the factory and pulled Jason to safety. Then everything went black. I had inhaled too much smoke and collapsed from sudden respiratory failure. I was rushed to the hospital. The doctor's face was grave. This patient already had significant lung damage. After inhaling that much smoke, her condition is extremely critical. Jason regained consciousness in the next room. When he heard that I had saved him, he tore off his IV and stumbled to my bedside, ignoring his own injuries. "Emily, why did you still try to save me? Someone like me, I don't deserve it." He fell to his knees beside my bed, tears pouring down. "I'm sorry, I was wrong, I know now. Please forgive me. Please, just wake up." I slowly opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was his exhausted, tear-streaked face. "I've already let go," I whispered. "It's time you forgave yourself too." My voice was soft, but every word was clear. The factory director eventually regained consciousness. His first action was to formally report Rachel for attempted murder. She had intentionally set Jason up and tried to burn down the factory. The police arrested her shortly after. As she was being taken away, Rachel screamed hysterically, "Why does he get to live a good life, and I end up like this? I only wanted what I deserved. He took everything from me." Her madness chilled everyone present. I remained in the hospital for a month, recovering slowly. Little he visited every day, chattering about everything she had seen in the north. Jason came often too, but always kept his distance. His eyes were filled with guilt and restraint. "I'm going back to the south," I told him calmly. "The studio has many orders waiting for me." "I'll go with you," he said quickly. "I can transfer to a southern branch or resign if I have to." I shook my head gently. "Some roads, once you've walked them, you can't go back. You have your life and I have mine. Let's leave it at that." 5 years later, in the spring, Jason, now a renowned designer, came to the south for a project. In a quiet cafe, he saw me from afar, sitting by the window with a now-grown little he. Sunlight streamed in through the glass, casting a gentle glow over us. I was smiling, peacefully, contentedly. The fine lines around my eyes bore the marks of time, but none of the bitterness of the past remained. He didn't approach. He simply watched for a moment, then turned and left. The next day, the cafe owner told me someone had made an anonymous donation, a scholarship for children like little he. On the donation slip was a single handwritten line, "May you be like the stars, shining bright every night." I held the slip in my hands, smiled faintly beneath the sunlight, and tucked it carefully into my pocket. Fate had brought us together again, unexpectedly. But this time, it also taught us how to let go. At last, I could live for myself, not as someone's shadow, not as someone's burden, and Jason had finally learned what it meant to truly love. Even if that love meant letting go.